starting, and I will share my screen. All right, put this down here. Okay. So I want to welcome you to the Insider Power Hour this evening. This is a new time. This is the same date. We used to have this in the mornings, and I've decided to try, since we're getting into the winter months, an evening appointment. This will run for approximately an hour. The first 30 minutes will be recorded and a lecture, and the second part will not be recorded in an open guided discussion. So the group visits provide an additional opportunity for you to connect with me and my team or experts on a weekly basis to learn and add information to help you on your health journey. So the education is either, or the group visit is either an educational presentation or a guest lecture. 2 Wednesdays ago, Rapali, my life coach and health and wellness coach, was gracious enough to lead the group visit while I was on vacation. So as I said, the first 30 minutes is recorded and placed in the Solutions library for later viewing. The format is either a lecture style with various subjects, lab review, Q&A, or a lecture series. The second half is a closed group discussion that is not recorded. It is guided. Participation is optional. However, it can be very insightful. So these are the rules. Be curious and open-minded. Everyone is at a different stage in their journey. We are students in learning. No one has all the answers. Emotions are welcomed and embraced, but please don't think in terms of black and white, but shades of gray. So one last thing, everything that you say will be heard by everyone else in the room. Group visits may involve others disclosing their private medical and social information. Please be respectful of their privacy and keep that information confidential. Remain attentive and curious, respect others' journey, uphold diversity and practice non-judgment, show encouragement when others may be struggling. Change happens at a different timeline for everyone, and be open to learning new things. So the topic for today is the beautiful and bountiful bees. So we are going to be speaking about B vitamins. And I decided to bring this subject up because I did have a couple of people talk to me and had some concerns about B vitamins and the fact that we have a lot of different kinds of B vitamins in the supplements that we take, right? If we look at most of our supplement products, there is some form of different B vitamins in biotin or B6 or B5. And we're going to go through why that is and what that means. And let me share my screen again. Okay. So these topics are generally pretty quick. They're not in super detail. So we kind of start scratching the surface. And we're going to talk about B vitamins as an essential nutrient. So what does it mean when something is an essential nutrient? Well, it means that we must get those essential nutrients, elements, vitamins from outside sources. We do not make them in our body. And it's important to understand that when we categorize something as an essential nutrient, we need to take as much effort as we can to get it from an outside source. So these are the lists of the B vitamins. We have B1, thiamine, B12, riboflavin, B3, B5, panolithic acid, B6, pyroxidine, B7, biotin, we're going to talk about that a little bit, B9, folic acid, very important, and B12 coupled with B9 is also very important, and we'll talk about that in a little bit about genomics. So what is the purpose and a function of a B vitamin? Well, It's involved in almost every biological function that we have. And one of its major purpose is to convert food into energy, and is also very integral and important in our mental health. But B complex vitamins are, it's a broad subject, but they are intertwined into just about every biological function that we have. Some of you may have seen this slide before. This is the Krebs cycle. The whole entire thing is called the Krebs cycle. In the middle is the citric acid cycle. This is how we make energy. And if you've been working with me for a while, you know that the B vitamins are critical in just about every stage of this particular process of making energy. We need them at the very, very beginning because, again, it processes and converts food into actual elements of making energy. And then as the process goes on, we need more and more B vitamins to complete that process as we go through. So we're going to talk about, would we be deficient in B vitamins, when we would be deficient in B vitamins, and how frequent is it? Because a lot of people do take a lot of B vitamins. Some people don't do well with B vitamins, and why would that be? We'll talk about that as well. So there are water-soluble vitamins and fat-soluble vitamins. Water-soluble vitamins just basically means that they are found in mainly watery or starchy foods, but we eliminate them very easily through our bodily fluids, urine, sweat, through our bowel, through our serum in our blood. So whatever we don't use, we do get rid of. Deficiency can be more common because the standard American diet does not provide enough essential nutrients, or the SAD diet. Unfortunately, that's what we call the standard American diet. It is, our diets and our food sources are less and less nutrient deficient. As we've been going on in the generations, we have genetically modified foods, and we have foods that are being assaulted of chemicals and fertilizers and all those things, but the nutrient dense foods are starting to go away. So that's why in some cases, vitamins, minerals are essential, and we need to get them from outside sources like a supplement. So I wanted to highlight these three vitamins, B6, B9, and B12. These are the ones that, if you go to your family practitioner, these are the ones that are going to be monitored more closely than the others. And these are typically the ones that you will see physically changes when someone does a nutritional exam. So B6 deficiency, 9 and 12, all lend themselves to an actual physical presentation, like cracked corners of your mouth, neurological issues. B9 deficiency is really critical in fetal birth defects, a sore or swollen tongue, beefy tongue, skin, hair, and nail changes, numbness of the hands and feet, memory problems, constipation. So when you go to your family doctor, most often they'll get a B6, B9, which is folate, and a B12 level or cobalamin level. And we want to, we have some more people coming on in here. Hi, everybody. As you join us, I let you in. So this particular part of our presentation is recorded. When we're finished with the presentation, we are going to open it up for a group discussion. We're talking about the beautiful and bountiful vitamin Bs, and we're highlighting B6, B9, and B12 because these are really critical in a lot of things that we do every day. Some of you have already probably had your B6, 9, and 12 levels monitored, and we do watch those very closely. As you notice, as you look at your supplement bottles throughout any treatment that you might be doing, you might see that B6, biotin, even B12, some form of B12 may be included in combination products because we know that B vitamins, like we need for conversion into food into energy, and B vitamins are used for converting food into energy, neurological, mental health. These are the cofactors or the enzymes that help us convert a lot of other supplements, minerals, and enzymes into useful bio forms that we need. So although B vitamin deficiencies are extremely rare, especially in the United States, they can happen. But how do they happen? Well, most particularly because of a poor diet. Now, I do want to clarify something, because later on we're going to talk about vegetarian and vegan diets. Those are not necessarily poor diets, but they are lacking in certain food sources of B vitamins, like organ meats, like eggs, things of that nature that are animal-based food sources that vegans and vegetarians tend to remove from their diet. So a supplement for them would make sense. But poor diets in the fact that if you have an eating disorder, if you have aversions to certain kinds of foods, if you just don't have access to good, fresh fruits and vegetables, that can be a problem. If you have an increased biological need, so when some of us are working together, we may have had the discussion that when the Krebs cycle or the need for increased energy happens, the need for the B vitamins goes up. And so when that happens, when the body is under a lot of stress and it's trying to respond to that stressor, regardless of what the stressor is, an emotional stressor, a spiritual stressor, an infection, surgery, hidden infection, toxic exposure, whatever it is, those B vitamins are significantly demanded in order to respond to that stress. And then poor absorption, not only poor diet, but poor absorption. So when I see someone that has a significant need for B vitamins, I think of one of these three things, and that's what we test for. That's why we do your 3-day food diet. We look at and test your Krebs cycle, right? We test your B vitamin levels in serum and in urine. And then we also look in your gut to find out what's going on with your absorption. If you would have something like H. pylori, if you've had maybe an autoimmune gut issue, if you've had a surgical resection like gastric bypass, even something as simple as an appendectomy, a cholecystectomy, which is a gallbladder removal, any of those things that impede or inhibit your ability to absorb vitamins is something that could make us think that there is a deficiency in B vitamins. So here are some surprising facts about B vitamins. First of all, they're very rare. A B1 deficiency is really very rare in the United States. B1 or thiamine is in a lot of our food sources. They add it in to a lot of things. B2 deficiency can be more likely with people who have thyroid disorders. Now, B3 deficiency is closely related to our mental health. So it is closely related to anxiety, depression, and some other issues, maybe obsessive thinking, things of that nature. So when we have someone who has a significant symptomology that you're complaining of those things, we do want to look at your B3 status. B5 deficiency, again, is extremely rare. But as you notice, B6, B9, and B12 are highlighted because these are the ones that are the most affected by our biological function and how we eat. So our absorption issues are a problem. Our food sources are a problem. But B7 deficiencies are very rare. And B7 is biotin, and biotin is used a lot in hair and skin. Even it's paired with collagen to help with fine lines and wrinkles, and that overall dermatological health. And you'll find biotin in a lot of other supplements because biotin can help with the conversion of making other supplements a lot more bioavailable, if that makes any sense. It helps move it into the cells so that we can use it more efficiently. However, the question and the reason why I brought up this entire subject was because someone had said to me, as they were looking at their supplements, they were kind of adding up, like, how much B6 am I taking, not only in my B complex, but in my multivitamin and maybe in an adrenal support or a thyroid support, and trying to figure out if they were, quote, overdosing in their B vitamins. Now, don't get me wrong. There are many times that a good thing can be overdone. But the thing that we want to remember about B vitamins is that they are water soluble. We will get rid of what we don't use. So oftentimes overdosing on B vitamins is generally not possible. I'm going to say generally. However, if you do have high levels of B6, B9, and B12, we have to look at supplementation. Did we stop our supplementation prior to getting your blood work? Now, B6 levels, you must be fasting for about 12 hours before you get your B6 serum level done. And I typically require people to stop any supplement that has B vitamins or additional B vitamins in it for at least 48 to 72 hours. Now, the other interesting fact, if you have a thyroid disorder, you probably already know this, but people who don't, is that biotin is actually an element that is used in the process for measuring your thyroid levels. So in the lab, they use biotin to process what your thyroid levels are. Okay, so that's important. There's biotin in the medium in the actual process of that. So if you're taking a supplement with biotin in it, it can give you a false reading in your thyroid levels. So your practitioner should always tell you to stop any supplement with biotin in it, again, for 48 to 72 hours prior to getting any thyroid labs. It's important to let your practitioner know, especially if you go to your primary care doctor and you've picked up maybe a B complex supplement, or you're taking the hair, nail, and skin supplements to get longer, stronger nails and better hair, and they want to do a screening test for thyroid. You need to let them know that you're doing that, because it could give you a false thyroid reading, which would not really help guide your practitioner very well. So a couple of things about genomics. I just wanted to say something about genomics. When we look at genetics or nutritional genomics, we specifically look at the ability for the body to process and use B9 and B12. We also look at B6 as well, because those are the ones that are really the ones that we use quite a lot in a lot of body systems. But you may have heard the term MTHFR, or a methylation problem. So in genomics or nutritional genomics, if we've run your genomic report, you will know that there are those kinds of genetic vulnerabilities that we look at. There are many, many different forms of MTHFR, and some of you may already have it. So we need to pay attention to that. That does not necessarily mean that we can't turn that genetic vulnerability off by doing other things. But in particular, having the right kind of formulated B vitamins is critical for people who have those genetic vulnerabilities. So those are just some surprising facts about the Bountiful bees. So in my opinion, you can't eat too much spinach and broccoli and fruits and vegetables that would get you the B vitamins that you need. But if you have a deficit or you have the inability to absorb those B vitamins, then supplementation may be something that you would want to consider for a good while. And then just a final word, eat the rainbow. If you're really not sure, and if you look at your plate and you have a lot of colors on your plate, you're doing good. One of the things I always laugh at, if I will challenge you all to, when you're watching TV, see how many food commercials come on and look at that food. And I don't want to, maybe some fried chicken fast food places, if you look at the plate, it's beige, 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 beige. There's no green, there's no red, except for maybe ketchup. I know my son thinks that ketchup is one of the things that qualifies as a rainbow factor on his plate. But if you have enough color, and I think we've talked about this in other group visits, and I can share those resources with you if you don't have it. It's the phytonutrient or the rainbow foods, and they're grouped into colors and what they do, what they support. And I love that chart for kids, because if you are going grocery shopping and you bring your rainbow chart with you and you say to the kids, hey, pick out your 2 favorite purple things in the purple section. So you get the kids involved with putting the rainbow on their plate, and they get to experiment and have fun, because when you walk into the produce section at the grocery store, it really is just an explosion of color, right? And getting them used to picking up the colors. And for you adults that don't like color, that is a perfect way. You take your little chart with you and you pick out the things that are important to you in those particular rainbow sections, and then you know what you're supporting as far as wellness and health. So these are the references that I used. There's some great detailed information, especially Medical News Today has a really nice complete guide to B vitamins, where you get your deficiencies, where you can find great B vitamin sources, what kind of physical symptoms would you see if you started to have B vitamin deficiencies. And then there's a great video on YouTube that shows you the difference between fat soluble and water soluble vitamins. It's important to understand the difference between the two, because fat soluble vitamins can build up in your system. And when they do that, that's when toxicity can happen. So if you were thinking about going down the path of using, and we'll talk about fat soluble vitamins at another lecture, if you're thinking about going down that path of like vitamin A, right? Vitamin A is fat soluble. It's really great for skin. However, it has to be monitored very closely, and you should not be on vitamin A for a very particular long period of time. So that is my presentation on the Beautiful and Bountiful V's. I am going to stop my screen share, and I am going to stop recording at this time.